a Fanboy Explosion! A podcast of awesomeness. A chance to grow your mind. Your fingers are now playing Fanboy Explosion.
All right, thanks for joining us. It is Friday, February 20th, 2015. That means it's time for another Patch Notes, our weekly recap show where we talk about anything and everything that might have gone on, anything we might have missed throughout the week. I am Seth.
I'm Cameron.
And let's get started by talking about what we played this week. We finally got back in the groove of playing some games. I think we've both spent a lot of time playing this first game, Legend of Zelda: Majora's Mask for the 3DS. What do you think about it?
Yay! It's really nice so far. I didn't originally play it on the N64. I bought it on the Wii when they re-released it on the Wii Virtual Console. And I can't remember how far I got. I think I did three or four dungeons. I distinctly remember doing the Goron dungeon, so I know I did at least those first two. So really this is, my first foray into Majora's Mask. And I'm really impressed with it so far. The graphical updates are really nice. The game looks and runs really well. And there's a lot of little interface improvements and things like that make it run, I think, a little better than the N64 version. So this is definitely the definitive version of Majora's Mask. So if you've never played it before, you definitely want to check it out. I've only done the first dungeon. How far have you gotten so far?
That's about where I am right now. I got the first dungeon done. I went through and started doing some of the little side missions and whatnot. This is my first time playing Majora's Mask. It's one of the few Zeldas that I didn't beat. And I didn't play it when I was younger because it, A, kind of freaked me out, and B, I couldn't ever figure out how to get, progress through the intro. Like the first 3 days you have to, do a couple of different things. I never really got past that point. I never owned it for N64, so this is a really interesting experience to roll into it. But yeah, I'm about where you are. I have to say the Great Fairy's Mask is the creepiest mask
I made
ever.
the mistake of keeping it on during just before a cutscene, and so
that's better.
So the whole cutscene, it's like Link being all heroic, and he's just wearing a woman's face, with a creepy face with long flowing pink hair. It was kind of strange.
I like how it instantly goes on your face, so you can just
you don't even
toggle
take it on
between
and off. It's just whoop.
Yeah.
Which I will say, I kind of wish they had fixed this, is you still have to watch the animation when you use the main mask, the Dooku mask,
the transformations.
Yeah, you have to watch the transformation when you put it on and when you put it off, and that's kind of annoying when you're swapping, but it's not a big deal.
But apparently it's a lot better than it was in the original game where you had to open the menu or something to equip that.
But the animations are still there. But it's just swapping between items and is a little easier now.
Yeah. Overall, I think I think people that play the original all agree it's a great remake. You're right, the graphical updates, you can tell they've done some work on it. And I'm glad it got remade. It was a myth for so long. People were like, please remake it. But, it was we never thought it would happen. And then when they announced it, we were almost awestruck. And I think it's really great. It would be great to own one of the, limited edition new 3DSs. But, that's a different discussion. Different time.
But that doesn't even come with the game, so who cares?
It doesn't come with the game, but, yeah.
We both got the limited edition game that came with the little figurine of Skull Kid.
Oh yes, which says on the back does not have amiibo functionality.
Just in case you thought you were buying a Skull Kid amiibo, it's not. Spoiler alert.
Yeah, and then we had the idea of why doesn't Nintendo try and do limited edition amiibos inside of games? They're doing Mario inside Mario Party 10, but that's just the standard Mario. But then we remembered there would be blood in the streets if that was the case. So
yeah, there's enough blood already. We don't need any more stampedes.
Yes.
For
Speaking of which, somehow the planets aligned. I was able to find a fox out in the wild, so I got that bad boy now. I think that we counted. I'm up to 6 now. I'm moving.
He has a problem.
The problem is developing. It is an ongoing habit that will soon become an addiction that will be the problem. So, no, it's overall pretty great. My collection grows. I can see them now. They're beautiful. But,
beautiful.
So what else have you been playing? What have you been up
Oh,
to?
here's something fun for everybody. You may know I have been playing Assassin's Creed Unity the past couple of weeks. I've talked about that a little bit. I finally finished that, as well as the Dead Kings DLC, which they released for free for everybody because of how messed up that game Unity was when it launched. They gave that part of the DLC of the season pass to everybody, free of charge. So I played through both of those. I don't want to redo some of my criticisms that I've talked about previously with the game. And I've always had a love-hate relationship with Assassin's Creed, but I finished Unity, and I can't help but feel it was a giant waste of time. Not that it took me,
Ouch.
Not that it took me super long. I honestly don't know how many hours I put into it. But now I'm not going to spoil it, but I would phrase it like this: the story in the game is actually not terrible by Assassin's Creed standards. Like
I thought you were going to say existent.
the history, like, part of the story, like the story that takes part in Paris. Now, you may be wondering, if you haven't played it, Assassin's Creed usually has a modern day element where you do things in modern world or something. Hey, well, no, that doesn't exist. They got rid of that. There is basically no current day storyline. So the actual Paris historical story is kind of interesting. And while there's not a modern day story, there is a framework. You hear voices talking to you occasionally, and you don't know who you're supposed to be. Like, basically the narrators talk to you, the player, as if you are a member of the Assassins. And so they're telling you you have to find this certain guy because he's the key to continuing this war against the Templars in the present day. And you go through the entire game, and you finish the game only for those magical voices in the sky to say, "Oh, good job. We don't actually need that. It's not a big deal. Thanks for doing it, but it's not actually. It doesn't really matter. We'll see you next week."
Wow, what a bait and switch.
And it's pointless. That's what I mean by pointless, is that you get to the higher end and they literally tell you that it's not worth it and that it doesn't contribute to anything, and thanks for playing. It makes no sense. It's dumb, and that franchise has lost its way. Once it lost Desmond, and it lost that, even as convoluted and as annoying as some of that storyline was, once they lost that character and that plot line, and now it's this annualized thing, there is no story. They don't know where they're going. They don't know where it's been. They just are making up new shit on the fly for new reasons for you to go to different places. Which is fine, because I play these games as historical tours, not for riveting storylines, because the games have never had very good stories. But I said if I could go back and get my 15, 20 hours back, I probably would. It was not worth it, and I would not recommend picking it up if you're on the fence still. It just doesn't add anything. I mean, with all the technical problems, and then plus it doesn't add anything to the franchise story-wise. It does not move the story forward at all. It's pointless. It pointless. It feels pointless. They don't add any new interesting systems. Some of the side missions actually are pretty, I would say, are a little better than usual.
The murder missions are cool.
Yeah, there's like these murder mysteries you can do, and there's all these other missions called like Paris stories, where you kind of meet some historical people, some not historical people. You do little missions for them. So that's kind of cool, and those are interesting. There's a lot of them. I didn't do nearly all of them because I was just bored, and most of them are pretty similar. But I would say that was the one good, besides the graphics, which the game looks really nice. I would say some of those side missions, they added some variety that have been lacking in previous games, but just technical problems. Main story is about as disappointing as they come. Definitely not a recommend from Cameron. So there you have it. But I'll buy the next one next year because I'm a total idiot, and I'll keep doing it. So
Yeah, I asked you. I was like, "So are you gonna keep buying them?" And then, yeah, I'm like, "Well, then obviously it wasn't too
I don't
bad.
know. I can't understand. Like, I was a history major in addition to a journalism major in school. I love exploring these historical settings, as flawed as they are from like a history standpoint, and as like stupid as some of these scenarios are, where you just like stumble into Napoleon and he's like, oh, I'm searching for this ancient artifact so I can conquer all of Europe. And any historian who's like playing that or watching that is just gonna face palm and be like, what are you even talking about? Like, so they try and shoehorn, I think, big historical characters in too much, but to me there is still no denying that it's really fun to explore this setting that I've read about and I've learned about. And you get the database entries when you climb like iconic buildings and things like that, and you read about them and you're like, oh yeah, I remember reading about that. I honestly, I play it to learn. I'm playing it because I enjoy learning more about that time period. I don't really play it for the story, I guess. So as long as they keep coming with cool settings and time periods, I'll keep playing it. I mean, I think Black Flag was one of the few exceptions where the gameplay actually lived up to the setting and delivered something more.
And we talked about that in our podcast earlier this week, so check that out.
We did, yes. We had a pirate-centric episode of the podcast where we talked about pirate games and why we thought they were cool and what more games could do with kind of those ideas. So definitely check that out. I think that was one of the better conversations we've had recently, actually.
It was cool.
So yeah,
fanboyexplosion.com. Go listen to that, or on iTunes.
You
Let
got
me talk a little bit.
You got a Ubisoft game actually recently.
Yeah. So speaking of Ubisoft, I got Far Cry 4, which let me just go ahead and say I received an email that said, "Hey, thanks for buying Far Cry 4." I'm like, well, I don't want an email welcoming me to a game like that's because it's tied in with Uplay and all this crap. I'm like, dude, stop it.
Oh
no,
well,
just let me
I
play
would
the
like
game.
to point out that when you said that, then it reminds me that when I finished Unity, the next day I pulled up my email and it said, like, thank you for playing Assassin's Creed Unity. Be sure to check out all this other stuff, and was trying to give me reasons to come back and play it some more, even though I had completed the main story. And I was like, what? This is weird.
Let me give you a peek behind this dark curtain as a marketing person. There is a person at Ubisoft who came up with that idea of, oh, we should use the data we collect from Uplay to send people targeted emails. And that man is probably like the head of a division right now. Like that is a highly encouraged thing in the business world, is targeting specific people. So the fact that you got that DLC email right after that is probably praised that. So.
Let me go on a tangent really quick, because this reminds me. Assassin's Creed has no soul at this point. Because if you play Black Flag and
that's harsh, man.
If you played Black Flag and you played this one, every mission has a rating where you can rate like how much you enjoyed it. They're like the game is a survey. The game is a survey. And they're just like, ooh, people didn't like this stealth mission. Ooh, people didn't like this. People really enjoyed this mission where you just jumped on people's heads. Like, they're just trying to cater to their audience. It's just, which I guess is good, but it feels less like a piece of art and more just like a by the bullet points. This is what people like. We should give it to them. This is what people don't like. We're not gonna do this. We're not gonna try anything new. So that's my end mini rant, but it's really weird that the whole game is a survey.
Yeah, so if you were to classify this between like a Goosebumps book and the Lord of the Rings trilogy, it would be on the close end of Goosebumps, where it's like, we're making this to make money and to wrap this weird story.
Definitely. At this point, it's just an annualized, give the people what they want, make it every year, cash cow, and it's
come on Ubisoft,
and that's
we've shit on you for the past few months. It's get your shit together and get rolling again. Like, Assassin's Creed is a really great franchise, and I would like to see it come back to life in a meaningful way. I think that the backbone story that arcs through all the different ones, like with Desmond,
we need
like the
that
modern
again.
Day story.
We need a new modern day character, and we don't need faceless people. That doesn't. I mean, I know that's hard. That requires more work, and it does makes it not as easy to pump out stuff. But those
Also,
games
if you're
were
going to
better
break
than
the
that.
fourth wall, do it in a creative and interesting way, not in a you're the player, so you're playing the game inside the game that you're playing. No,
That's
don't do that.
that's all
Like,
it is. That's all it is. Now, Black Flag did some interesting stuff with that, where you would you were in a game development studio, and it was first person, and you could explore, and you could hack people's computers and learn about the Abstergo Templar people making the game and their insights. That was kind of interesting. This game has there is nothing. There is no modern day element at all besides these faceless people talking to you over the game. So, okay, well, rant enough about Assassin's Creed. What do you think about Far Cry? I haven't played it yet.
Yeah. So Far Cry, I've barely played, maybe just an hour of it. But I've never played a Far Cry game before. I'm excited to play one for the first time. Immediately the villain is fantastic. This is a Bond-esque villain who is you meet him right out of the gate, very sinister. I mean, just stabbing people in the neck and just being evil. And I immediately was excited to see how I'm gonna face off with this guy. But overall, I mean, story is pretty standard setup. You're like returning to your home country to spread the ashes of your deceased mother, because that was her request. So you have some kind of reason to be there. But of course, all hell breaks loose the minute you get there. So, it's got the open world element down really well. Right now I feel very underpowered because I don't have all the good weapons and stuff quite yet. But I can definitely tell this is going to be a game that ramps up real quickly. As far as how you feel as a person, because you're working with this rebellion who's trying to uproot the government, and just there's one escape sequence right at the very beginning where things just go crazy, and I know it's a little bit scripted, but I know that events like that could happen. They showed in the promotional content luring elephants into bases and having them wreck everything for you. So I'm pretty excited for it. It's been a while since I played a good open world first person shooter, and I think it's time to try that out. And a lot of people have had good things to say about Far Cry. The only complaint I've heard is they said if you've played Far Cry 3, there may not be much new for you. But I haven't played Far Cry 3, so I'm looking forward to it.
I mean, yeah,
it's going to be pretty cool. But yeah, I can definitely tell it is already less Ubisoft than Assassin's Creed is.
How many surveys would you say you take per mission?
I haven't come across a survey
no
yet.
Surveys?
I haven't come across an app.
How do they know? How does Ubisoft know how to make the next game then if you don't take the surveys?
I think they just use their brains.
How do they make
different.
money if there's not microtransactions and locked content behind companion apps? How do they? I don't understand. How is this game even possible? How did this game get made?
I know it's in theory it shouldn't work. It's just, I mean, they're probably hemorrhaging money off of it. If it wasn't for all the money they made from Assassin's Creed, they'd probably be bankrupt right now. No,
I mean, that's
but
maybe
it's kind of weird
true,
to me that, why does one game have all this garbage in it and then the other game that comes out literally the same time doesn't? And I think it says something about the Assassin's Creed franchise and how popular it is, but also Ubisoft just needs to make better decisions.
They're willing to whore out Assassin's Creed. It has become a money-making machine, and they're going to do anything to maximize the amount of money it makes, which includes microtransactions, which includes the companion apps to make people download the apps so they can get stuff in-game. It's just the surveys so they can make sure they optimize it so people... I mean, which, in theory, that's not bad. Learning what people like and don't like and trying to make a better game for it. But it still reeks to me of that feeling of we're gonna make a bullet point list of what people want in our games, and then we're just gonna play straight to the book. We're not gonna do anything interesting or creative or do something we want to do. And I like playing games that it is a developer's vision and they're bringing something unique and they have an idea and they want to see that realized. I don't want to play a game that's crowdsourced by all the millions of Assassin's Creed players. Because
that's a good point.
I mean, that's my personal opinion. But yeah, Far Cry does not suffer from any of those
Yeah,
things.
I'm enjoying it so far. I'm excited to continue playing it, and it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun. So, have you played anything else this week?
Yeah, I played one other thing this week. I've had it on my Steam list. I got it as a gift, and it's been on my Steam list for a while. It's Kentucky Route Zero. You may have heard of it.
Ooh.
It's like a smaller indie game. I guess you would classify it as an adventure game. Although there aren't really puzzles or anything like that. It's kind of, you just talk to people and walk around, and it's very,
that's not even a game then.
It's a cool game. Actually, it's gonna be a 5-episode game. There's 3 episodes out right now. I've played all 3. Each episode took me maybe an hour and a half. And I can't even really explain it other than you need to check it out. You need to watch like a YouTube video of it. Watch just like the trailer, or maybe watch a playthrough of like the first couple minutes of the episode 1. It's just very surreal. It's just a very surreal adventure. The art style is, I sit back. I just sit back in my chair and I just appreciate the scenery, like the images. It's got this beautiful, beautiful art style that like people don't have faces or anything. It's just very simple, but they use it to great effect, and the colors are very bright and vibrant, and it's really weird. I can't even tell you what the story is really about. I mean, on paper, the story is about this character he has an antique shop, or he works at an antique shop, and it's his last delivery, and he's trying to deliver this, I don't even know what it is, an antique of some kind to this address, but he doesn't know where this address is. He's never heard of it before. He can't find it on any map, and so he talks to this he goes to this gas station to fill up, and he talks to this strange man there, and this strange man tells him that he needs to get on Route 0. And that's where he'll find the address. Now, no one knows what this is, and eventually you learn it's kind of just like this weird pseudo-reality highway. It's not clear if it's ghosts or spirits or what it is, or if it's even there at all, but it's just really weird. What I think is actually really interesting, and not everyone will have the same experience I have, is because I actually went to school in Kentucky. I went to school at Western Kentucky University in Bowling Green, Kentucky. And that's actually the region where the game takes place. Kentucky is famous for having a lot of caves. They have Mammoth Cave, which is like I think one of the biggest cave systems in the world. It's a national park. And so having lived there, and there are actual roads like that exist in real world. You drive around them on this little map, like in the game. And so actually having been from Bowling Green and in that area, and then like seeing it in the game, is just kind of strange. You're like, oh, hey, Bowling Green, I know where that is.
Yeah, that's kind of weird.
Yeah, and it's just really interesting. And then it's got this very like folksy kind of vibe to the whole game. And you just meet tons of interesting characters. Like I said, it's mostly talking. It's kind of a choose your own adventure. You kind of choose different choices. Like people will ask you various things, and you kind of play the story accordingly. You can answer as different characters, or you can make different choices. For example, when someone asks you, why are you trying to find this address? Why is it so important to you? You have 2 answers. Both of them kind of amount to the same thing, but it personalizes the story. You have the option of, this is the antique store is closing down. This is my final delivery. It's really important. I have to see it done. Or you can choose the choice of, I'm leaving the company. I'm retiring. I'm getting too old for this. I can't keep up. So this is going to be my final delivery. So either way, it's your final delivery, but you personalize it into what you kind of want the story to be. I personally picked the antique shop is closing down because I thought that was way more depressing. So it's really cool. My words can't do it justice. You need to just check it out. You can find it on Steam. Like I said, there's only 3 of the 5 episodes out right now, but it's about 5 hours worth of gameplay. It's just a really relaxing easygoing experience. If you love narratives and you're looking for something different, something thought-provoking and out of the ordinary, definitely check it out. I really recommend it. So.
You mentioned something just now with that game that it's a concept I'd like to see developed more, and that you had to choose between these two options, right? And neither one is correct or incorrect, but it says something about your character. So you think that the antique shop closing down is the most depressing, but I feel like for some people the other option could be, more depressing for them, because you think about it, like, at what point do you reach in your life where you just kind of like give up on yourself, like, oh, I'm too old for this. Like, we hear this stuff all the time, but that's pretty depressing when you step back and think about, like, and so, not saying that I want depression, to be like a, a thing that we build games around, but what I think is an interesting thought there is that it says something about your personality. And as a game creator, especially when you think about like alternate endings and choose your own adventure style stuff, you could create a game that's much more impactful to a human based on their personality, if you could utilize some of that. This was back, I think it was at E3, they showed off the new horror game coming out for PlayStation 4 called Until Dawn. And in the demo, like to calibrate your controls or whatever, they had you answer these questions, and they were personality questions like, what's scarier, being buried alive or, jumping out of an airplane, or things like that were more like personality style questions. And everyone that was playing it was like, oh my God, is this going to like impact my game? And the developers were pretty adamant about saying, like, no, this is just controller calibration, like, we're just putting it in there. Mm-hmm. But I have a hard time believing that especially for a game like that, which I feel is going to be primarily narratively driven. Like, the gameplay aspect of it is probably going to be like a Heavy Rain style thing. So I would like to see games utilize that more as we continue into the next generation, because I've said this before, I think that building good systems into video games is going to be key. Like, don't just make games look more beautiful, because at this point we've reached that cap. Like, I think you could make a pretty game, but if no one likes the content of it, then it's not going to do well. But if you do something like Shadow of Mordor did, like take a core gameplay of like, they took the gameplay of Batman or Assassin's Creed and they wrapped it in a system of the Nemesis system, it made it really fun and compelling. And I feel like this type of thing could be done the same way, especially in games like Telltale games, that seem to continuously show us, like, we get this false sense of like, like, oh, I get to choose who lives, but it doesn't matter because, like, I'm going to get the same outcome anyways. It's just going to be a different person. I really wish and hope that developers will incorporate that. So didn't mean to go off on a tangent there, but I encourage devs to look at that philosophy and that as an opportunity for their games.
Yeah, I mean, what's interesting about the way Root Zero approaches it is that there's no right or wrong answer, and from what I can tell, your choices don't really affect anything. It's more just kind of like you're making a choose your own adventure. You're crafting the storyline as you go, and that's what I think is really interesting. It's just, so it's not like, from what I can tell, I don't know if later in episode 5, if all my choices or my dialogue options are going to come back and bite me in the butt or something like that. I doubt it, because I don't think that's the point of that game. The point of the game is to kind of it's this personal journey almost. But yeah, I think you're right. Just giving players those options, I think, is important, and that's those systems, having those kinds of systems in place where players can customize and they can create and kind of shift the narrative to their liking, or whatever is going to work, like, be more affecting on them. I think that sounds really interesting, and I'd like to see more of that as well.
There you go. So that's it for all the games that I played. I think. Did you have any other games that you played?
That was going to be my last one that I put time into this week.
It's news time, baby. So all kinds of news that we might have missed this week, we're going to recap it now. I think one of the big game releases this week, actually coming out today, Order 1886. Lots of chatter about this game, specifically on game length and game content and story. What are your thoughts? What do you got?
Yeah, I mean, I've read up on this a lot. I will say that Now, neither one of us have PS4s. But as from when they announced this game, I was never it never really caught me. It never really captivated me. I just wasn't ever very enthused about it, and it wasn't something that made me want to buy a PS4. Although I will say it is probably graphically, it is probably one of the best looking games I've ever seen. It looks beautiful. But yeah, a lot of the reviews, not great reviews. A lot of people are saying it almost like the game plays itself. Very, very linear. Lots of cutscenes, lots of QTEs, lots of forcing you to do things that you might not otherwise like want to do. Just there's not a lot of meat there. It's pretty short from what I understand. So yeah, I don't know what happened to that. I don't know what happened to that game. This is a first party Sony PS4 exclusive game that should be, like kind of a big deal. It should be the start of a new franchise. It should be Sony's Gears of War. And I highly doubt we will see a sequel from the reception this first one has received.
I wouldn't jump quite there yet, because I'm at the end of the day.
The sales will determine.
Yeah,
I
sales
guess at
will
the end
determine
of the day.
that.
But it's currently not to say Metacritic is. I'm just using Metacritic for like a rough average of consensus right now. I think Metacritic is generally pretty dumb, but I do kind of use it somewhat. It has a 65 on Metacritic right now. I mean, that tells me pretty overwhelmingly it's not that great. A lot of outlets who don't use scores anymore. They have given the Order 1886 a flat out like no or do not play, which I think definitely says something about its quality. And now like game length does not really bother me. I don't know what do you think about that? Because that's what a lot of the criticism has been. Not so much among reviewers, but just among gamers who you're like, oh my gosh, they want me to spend $60 on a game I can finish in like 6 or 7 hours. There's no real replayability.
This is going to bring back one of my marketing words here, and that is value. Everyone gets a different amount of value from things, and a lot of gamers they quantify value in numerals. They look at the time, they look at the frame rate, they look at the performance, and that is the basis of their value. And then different other gamers, they don't care, they don't really care about the graphics or the frame rate or anything like that. They're more looking for the experience of it. So at the end of the day, we can bicker and we can argue about it, but if you enjoy narrative experiences and this type of game interests you, then I think you should always give it a try. It is so short. I feel like this would be a good one to rent or borrow if it's possible, or even go in with your friend, go in with 2 or 3 friends who may want to play the game as well. Y'all circle it around for a couple weeks and then sell the game and split that. You could do that as well. But as far as game length, there is a certain minimum, I think. If you're going to release a 2-hour game and charge me $60 for it, then yeah, I'm going to not see the value in that, and I don't think anyone will. But you have to strike a balance. Some people don't like that the game is that long, but one of my favorite games of the previous generation was Mirror's Edge, and you can beat that in about the same time for 6 to 8 hours in one sitting, and that game has rave reviews. People love it. And it has a great cult following.
Yeah, I don't think
that's fair.
I don't think it would be such a big deal if the gameplay was better. Like in Mirror's Edge case, the gameplay was so fresh and exciting and wonderfully done that no one cared that it was that short, because you wanted to play it again. You wanted to try and speed run it and get everything done flawlessly. The Order has a completely different. No one likes the Order's gameplay. It's cover-based shooting, but it's very bland. It's very boring. From what I've read, there's only 2 types of enemies. There are dudes who sit behind cover with guns and shoot at you, and there are dudes who run at you with guns and shoot at you. They built up a lot of this supernatural werewolf element, and that is apparently not actually in the game. There is one werewolf fight, and then there's a werewolf cutscene with quick time events. That is the entire extent of that. I think that's a bit I mean, I don't think I think it's a little misleading. I mean, I don't know how big of a deal it is, but like they built that up as that was the whole point of the game, and then to have like you don't even interact with them or fight them or anything like that, you just fight humans. That's boring. It's just boring.
Well, again, I think it's going to boil down to each person's individual tastes. But I think overall, as far as game length goes, it boils down to quality of the game. People like good games and they like to play them for a long time. And if you miss out on either of those two, you'll be punished for it. And they're being punished for it. Like this, I think that the Order 1886 should have been, like you said, the Gears of Sony's PlayStation 4. But now it is turning into, if it does get a sequel, it will. I hope they learn from a lot of their mistakes. But it might just be a one-off and something that's just forgotten. I hope it's not, because I like to see stuff.
Chances of that are probably pretty high. I mean, I would say I think the premise of that game is really interesting. I think that idea of like these Arthurian knights who battle the supernatural and battle these werewolves through the ages. I think that sounds really cool to me. That sounds really awesome. But yeah, I just from what I've read, the story doesn't really deliver. The gameplay doesn't deliver. Like for example, I was watching a playthrough, or not a playthrough, but I was watching Game Informer's test chamber of the game where they'll play the game for about 20 minutes and they'll have the guy who like reviewed the game come in and talk about the game and kind of elaborate more on it. And there's a specific part, which they've shown in demos as well, where you encounter this werewolf. And this is one of like the quick time events. And you encounter this werewolf and you draw your gun and the game rips control away from you. Basically what you do is you back up and you shoot at him. But you can't like the game is making you back up. You have to back up. And shooting him doesn't serve any purpose because it's a scripted event. The guy's not going to die. He can't be killed no matter how many times you shoot him. It's just doing it for cinematic visuals of you backing up down this corridor, pumping ammo into this werewolf, and it has no point and it's not going to stop. And then what do you know? The werewolf shows up, he smacks you through a window, and then you go on to the next segment. So it's just, and I think like the game is filled with that. The game is filled with these moments where you just like, we're gonna play the game for you, and not even just the quick time events or the cutscenes, but moments like that where you don't have like you can press the right trigger, and you don't even have to do that because it doesn't mean anything. Robbing players of their participation and robbing players of their ability to accomplish things. Like, why couldn't that have been a mini boss or something like that, where you fight this guy, you have control. Sure, you may like wound him or defeat him, and this happens in games all the time, where you'll defeat a boss, but then you watch the cutscene and he's not actually defeated or he's not dead yet, and then he comes at you and punts you through a window. That's still
like Wesker.
Like Wesker. That is still gameplay. You're still doing something. You're accomplishing something. Instead, it's like, you can just do this futile attempt where you actually can just put the controller down.
Yeah. I mean, I come from Half-Life, which was the game that introduced the idea of, no cutscenes, you live the cutscene. So I'll be the first to advocate, never take control away from the player. But you said this specifically. It felt like there's these cinematic moments, and this is the word they kept using.
Exactly. They have
to respond to everything.
They have
and I'm
pushed
like,
that
okay,
forever. That it's cinematic.
I feel like this is a movie that's been shoehorned kind of into a game idea, because they even like letterboxed the freaking thing. Like that's a dumb fucking thing to do on a video game, is just destroy space on your screen. But then it's like. And then, the folks who are very concerned about resolution, it's 30 frames per second on this really powerful console. And then you've got, the letterboxing. And then all of a sudden you're not controlling your character for entire chapters and quick time events. It feels like you're playing a movie in the worst possible way. And it doesn't feel like you're actually participating in anything. Like you're just along for the ride. and that's been proven time and time again to not be an effective way to create a video game. So I hope they can learn from their mistakes.
I mean, I will say this: if
forward.
their mission was to make a cinematic experience that looks really great and has some great visuals, they succeeded. It looks very cinematic. In motion, it looks beautiful. The graphics are, like I said, some of the best I've ever seen. But if their mission was to make a good video game, I have not played it, but from everything I've read, I don't think they didn't hit the mark. So I'm sorry,
they're being punished
owners.
for it.
Yeah,
It was supposed to be
PlayStation owners. I hate it for you. I hate it.
It was supposed to be the console pusher, and that was one of the games that was the first milestone. I was like, oh, let me see how the order turns out. That might be when I get on with the PlayStation. But yeah, after what I've seen, hell no, dude, I'm not going to be doing that. So that's sad, but the only way to truly know is to play it yourself. So it came out today. If you want to try it or buy it, go for it.
Yeah, I would definitely say try it. I would never deter anybody from, if you really have your mind set on this and you think it sounds really cool and you're excited about it, check it out. I mean, you may enjoy it. I don't think it's the worst game known to mankind. Like I said, it looks very beautiful and it is very cinematic, and I think that core idea is cool. So if you were excited about it, still check it out. Maybe just wait for it to go on sale or wait a month, or like you were saying, Seth, buy it with a friend, rent it. Maybe try one of these other options beforehand so you don't throw down $60 for something you're not going to be impressed with.
Yeah, I've heard the voice acting's great. I've heard the characters are interesting and compelling. So I think everything kind of merges together and it comes out to be just an average game. And we're seeing that in review scores. 6 and 7 is average.
Well, sometimes
we'll see.
On the game side of things, 6 and 7 usually this is absolute shit.
Yeah,
but that's a problem.
We'll see. So
that's a problem with game reviews.
So, this week was something very exciting got announced as far as movies specifically. Was a new Alien movie is actually happening after the wish-wash of it's happening, it's not happening, but now we've got another tweet that says it's happening. So, did you hear about that?
Yeah, I did. That's really exciting. Neil Blomkamp, who did District 9 and Elysium, and kind of rose to fame in the gaming world, I guess I would say, he did these Halo 3 like live action short commercial things. In addition, he was attached to the now long dead Halo movie. He was attached to that. I honestly can't think of a better person to bring back Alien like we used to remember. Because I think I don't actually know your feelings on Prometheus, Seth, but to me, Prometheus was kind of meh in a lot of ways.
Agree.
It had some interesting moments, but it didn't. I mean, and it wasn't supposed to necessarily be an Alien movie. It was supposed to kind of be something a little different, but still in that universe. But this sounds freaking crazy. I will just say that. There was concept art that was put out online of the movie before he had confirmed that he was actually making the movie. He was just throwing that out there, saying like, hey, this was something I had an idea about and I was kind of working on, but I'm not anymore. Well, now he is working on it. It shows like an older Ripley along with an older battle-scarred Hicks, like teaming up again to fight the alien. I don't know where the heck this is going. Now, you're the kind of Alien buff. What do you think about bringing Ripley and Hicks back?
I think if you do it smart, that it could breathe fresh life into that franchise that it very much needs. And you say something earlier that was, getting back to its Alien roots. Now, what's really tricky about this is Alien, I think, has two roots, like distinctive roots. There are, the original Alien, like one alien.
Well, there's the horror, and then there's the
horror,
action.
and then you have the James Cameron action flick with Space Marines and Game Over Man, and so trying to, if you're talking about getting back to roots, this definitely looks more like original Alien. than it does.
Well, I don't know.
It might not be.
Are you familiar with Mr. Blomkamp's work?
Well, that's true.
I feel like this is
and
gonna
whatever
be
it is,
aliens.
it's got to be epic. Whatever they do, it's got to be epic, and there's got to be a lot at stake. So I'm anxious to see it. I always keep an open mind, but because I understand that this is probably in the alpha, like the
It's
early
very
stages
early. Yeah.
of development, so they probably haven't even talked like events or stories yet. But no, I mean I'm always down with old characters coming back if they can find a like good reason for them to be back. And
Well,
and
Ripley's
doing
been
what
in
they're doing.
every Alien movie except Prometheus, I guess. So, which is questionable in Alien movie. So to have her back for another Alien movie, I think is, I mean, it makes sense to me. Like, and I think I am very enthusiastic about Blomkamp because he has this very gritty sci-fi vibe that he always shoots for. Very realistic, very gritty. The kind of almost always this dystopian kind of future, which is what Alien is. Alien is this.
Yeah, Alien is dystopian.
Corporation-filled, like crappy future. Like it's crappy and gritty and metal and nothing shiny. It's all like worn and used. He does that amazingly well. And I actually went back and I watched some of those Halo shorts he worked on, and like the first 2 minutes, because the Halo Marines were actually inspired by the Marines in Aliens. Bungie has said that many times when they've talked about the
I
origins.
think any space marine has originated from
Well, that's
that.
probably
That was
true,
the first
but I
space
mean,
marine.
the Marines in Halo, they look kind of similar. They act kind of similar, like they are kind of gung ho,
Yeah, the hoorah.
Yeah, so you can see that, and then watching that short where Blomkamp is directing these very alien-esque Marines, and it's this very gritty, like the old school like computers. I know like that were featured a lot in Alien Isolation. Like those computers from the 70s that are somehow flying the ship.
Old,
Yeah, it's like that. So it's really cool. I'm really excited about it. I mean, it'll depend on where the story goes, but I think if they get Sigourney Weaver to come back, that will be. I mean, I don't know.
She'll do it. She came back for Alien Isolation for the DLC.
I mean,
so.
I don't know what fan would not be excited to see that. I would be very excited. And after the weird sour taste of Prometheus, I'm definitely on board with kind of a return to.
You asked me what my thoughts on Prometheus. I think Prometheus is more of a mystery movie than it is like a horror or a sci-fi horror film, because they're trying it feels the entire time you're not sure, like they're not sure what's going on, and yeah, people are dying. It follows the horror trope of like creatures killing them, but it just didn't feel alien, and it didn't feel like that. It felt like that universe was very, and I know that it's not technically supposed to be like Alien, but when you market it and say it's like this is what happened before Alien, like that's the obvious connection.
I mean, like me personally, I thought it did feel like Alien. I just thought it was like a really less good one.
Yeah, it felt more like a traditional, like everyone,
like there were portions that were Alien-esque. It's just that the whole film had plot holes you could drive through, and like you kind of saying, the mystery part, I think that was just bad writing. Like the film they don't answer anything, and which is fine to some extent, but no one knows what's going on, and everything is just kind of confusing. And then I don't even know what was going on at the end. But like the one scene that I thought really reminded me of Alien was the part where forgive me, I don't actually know this person's name, like the main girl character. Okay, well, similarity number one, main character is like a strong female, strong independent woman character. She has like, I don't know, she gets like impregnated or something with the monster thing, the alien thing. Remember? I don't actually even remember what happens leading up to that point.
Yeah, that movie was very forgettable.
Well, she goes to this machine, like this surgery machine, and she basically has like an alien abortion. And that was really intense.
I remember that scene. That was intense.
That was very intense. That reminded me kind of the chest burster scene in the original Alien, where you're like, what's happening? What's happening? And it was very intense and scary, where she's locked in this machine and she's got to get this thing out of her. It's gonna kill her, and it's this freaking gross tentacle monster thing, and it's just like, oh my god, and then she gets like stitched back up, and then she just walks off after having like a C-section, and I don't know how realistic that is, but that she was totally a boss for freaking ripping that thing out of her.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh wow, like that was really intense. Like I was kind of on board at that point, and then the movie kind of nosedived afterwards, but that's a whole nother discussion. But we'll see where it goes. I mean, I think, getting back to, I think it will probably be more like Aliens, especially if Hicks is involved. I mean, if Hicks
That's true, yeah.
It feels like it's going to be a sequel to Aliens if you're going to have Hicks again. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. It'll be a ways off for sure, but it's still exciting to see that franchise still has life, and to have someone as qualified, I think, as Blomkamp, I would kind of say he's the go-to sci-fi guy right now. He's almost he's almost Ridley Scott too, honestly.
Yeah, that's a strangely correct comparison.
He almost is, so I couldn't think of someone more perfect to do it.
There you go. So I think we got some more information this week about Game of Thrones, specifically the TV show. What's going on there? I hear it's pretty crazy.
Well, okay, let's start with this. Where are you at on the show / books?
I'm caught up on the show. The books, I've, continually sitting at, just started the 4th book.
Okay, gotcha.
Maybe one day, but...
Okay, so
I would say, let's, for the sake of this, not spoil anything that hasn't been in the show, because I assume that many people are show watchers and not book readers.
Okay, so that's fair enough. So if you don't want to be spoiled by Game of Thrones, you haven't watched season 4, turn your mic headset off, go away.
Yeah, season 4 is open game. If you haven't watched it by now, then
we're going. It was a year later. It just came out on Blu-ray. Although some people might be waiting for the Blu-ray. But who cares? We're going to go in anyways. Now, this probably won't be too spoiler heavy, but it was kind of the trailer, one of the trailers for season 5, the upcoming season 5, which comes out in April, was released. And from that point, people who have read the books, I have kind of started noticing some really interesting things in that trailer, and they've since kind of gone on and elaborated on some of that stuff. That basically it's 100% confirmed. Show is going to continue to be way different from the books. It's already been kind of diverging a little bit. It's only going to continue to do so because Martin's next book is not coming out this year, and who knows if it'll actually come out next year. The show's going to continue to plow ahead, so the show will be officially wrapping the story up before the books do. Now, as the book fan first, that makes me very sad. I'm not going to watch the show. I'm going to put the show off until all the books come out because that's how I'm going to roll. Now, see, you're going to be the opposite, though. You'll watch the show, and you're not going to read the books. So I will
eventually read the books, but
it
will take a long time.
So I don't know how I feel about it. George R.R. Martin, who writes the book series, has long said that he did not want the show to pass where he was. He was working very hard to make sure that didn't happen, but he writes at I don't want to say a snail's pace, but he's very meticulous. And I mean, I think it shows in his quality of his work, but he does not write fast by any means. So it's kind of sad to see that. And the differences are, from what I can tell, are going to be pretty substantial. And I just don't want the show to... I feel like at this point, the show is going to spoil me on the true Game of Thrones experience. So I'm going to be sitting out the show going forward.
Now, let's be straight. We're talking specifically about deaths of characters. That's like when he talks about it's going to be...
Well, partly. I mean, just the overall narrative as well, not just the deaths. Now, they have confirmed that some people are going to die in the show that are not yet dead in the books. Considering that season 5 is based on book 4 and 5, that obviously means there's going to be some big changes, because at this point they are still going off content for 80% from the books. So for them to say that they're going to kill off characters who are still alive in the books, that's pretty substantial. And a little worrisome, I think. I think the show's great, but just the books are so much more detailed and so much more intricate that the show just doesn't have a chance. It can't cram all that stuff in. That's why. So I like the books. Happen to like the books more. But it's also, the books are messier. I will say that the show streamlines some characters and arcs and makes things a little more cut and dry and not as complicated, which I do think is necessary. Like I said, they can't cram all that stuff in, so they do simplify it a little bit. But it's that for that same reason, I would rather read the books first and then watch the show. Like one example of how freaked out I was last season was in the books, if you are not aware, the Hound and Brienne of Tarth, they never fight. They never have a battle to the death. And so I'm watching the show, and they're having this standoff, and I'm like, wow, this is really interesting. Like, these characters don't really meet in the books. And then it is probably one of the most brutal sword fights I've ever seen, ever.
It was rough.
And I'm like, oh my God, what just happened? Like, what is going on? This is nuts. And I'm curious, like, how that's going to affect things, and is there going to be more of that? Actually, I already know there's going to be some more things like that from what the trailer indicated. Some characters will be taking journeys to places they do not go in the books and interacting with people they do not interact with at the books at all. So it is definitely, it's going to be interesting.
Well, this is something that this is an issue that has come up in the past, and it's what happens when a book, specifically, like a book is, I would say, a narrower audience than films are in the modern age. Like, more people probably watch movies and TV than read books, sadly. But this is part of the transcendence of like once things get that big and mainstream, like, it has to be, you have to cater your message. Marvel is doing a splendid job of differentiating its cinematic universe to its comic book universe. There's even smaller examples. I'm a huge fan of both the comic book and movie of Scott Pilgrim versus the World. That movie has a different ending from the book series. So this is not a new concept where you start, because I don't think that they're going to necessarily be spoiling things from the books per se, because we've already seen they've thrown the books out for a lot of things. The Tarth versus the Hound,
but I think they
battle. But they're throwing out some
I will disagree,
conventions,
because they have the roadmap for the series. Like, they know where George is taking it. They know all the major points and things. And I don't think they're not going to diverge from that when they don't have to. I'm pretty sure. Like, so I feel like it is going to spoil stuff. Like, we will see the end of the show. We will see the end of Game of Thrones. We will see the conclusion before we see the conclusion of the books. And while I think it's going to be different, I don't think it's going to be as different as, for example, like, I don't know, like, you use Marvel as an example. Now, the Marvel movies are pulling from 50 years of comic book history. They can pick and choose what they want to include. So far, up to season, I would say 3, with a couple minor changes, the Game of Thrones show has been, George's books has been the Bible. They have stick to it very closely for the most part. And they haven't changed things when they didn't necessarily have to. Like I said, they have done some simplification. They've kind of combined characters at various points, and done some of that stuff just because they can't have so many people and so many, like, storylines going on the show. But I think I do think like we will see the book will be spoiled. Like that's just how I'm gonna go at it. I think I don't want to watch it. Like you're gonna watch it. The world is gonna watch it, and I'm curious if other like Game of Thrones book fans feel the same way as I do, where they don't want to like spoil themselves while watching the show.
I can almost guarantee you that Game of Thrones book fans are probably very upset by this, simply because as humans we don't ever want people encroaching on our zone. Like the rise of Game of Thrones popularity, like there are many people who have read those books since the early 90s, and that, you know, it's like, oh man, I've been reading these books forever, I've been saying these books are great forever, and now everyone's just now realizing this. And this has just happened in general with all kinds of things like comics and everything. Like people are starting to jump into this, and it's all about the way you look at it. Like as far as I'm concerned, when the first Iron Man movie came out and it blew up, as far as like people loved Tony Stark, people loved Iron Man, a lot of people were like, well, you know, I've been fans of comic books for years, like, you know, like, you didn't think he was cool before the movie came out. I'm like, well, you should embrace these new fans that are coming in, but I don't think it's cool that they're cutting those book fans out of this. I think it's a tad ridiculous that it takes him so long to write books, especially when you're releasing art books.
Have you ever tried to write a book, Seth?
No, I haven't tried to write a book.
No, I am the biggest George defender. I will defend George.
I don't want to attack George.
It's not.
I don't want to attack George, but he needs to be prepared to deal with this issue, because when you sign off on a TV series and accept the paycheck for that TV series, then you are, you're obliged to see that through.
Well, he is. It's not like he's canceling the show because he doesn't want them to pass the books. He is like, reluctantly, because he isn't where he wants to be with the books. He's like, all right, well, go ahead. Like, you know what's going to happen. You have the roadmap, do it. So it's not like he's changing anything. It's just, I know I'm sure he's a little disappointed about it. And I'm sure fans are that, or book fans are, that the show is kind of, it feels like that they're
leaving them behind.
They're usurping the throne. They're taking it over. Like, this was like, adaptation is one thing, but it's like halfway in adaptation, and then the next is like it's gonna be the main thing, which is really, I don't know how often that scenario has popped up where like
you don't see scenarios like this very much. Most authors would just rush the series out and get it done, but George has been very resilient, and I applaud him for that.
Things out, and he doesn't rush anything out. Now, I can't remember when the first book has come out, but there's only 5 books, and it's been, I'm pretty sure, more than a decade, guaranteed.
Well, yeah, and what I'm saying is that George, I think, is very a resilient content creator for not doing that. Most content creators, as soon as they get that first paycheck from HBO, they're going to be like, all right, it's time to ride this cash cow, baby. And George has not done that. He's done a very good job of keeping his property in check. And unfortunately, this just happens. Like the fans of the show. Sorry, book fans, but fans of the show outnumber you just because of society and the way that we've moved toward entertainment that's, not read, but seen. And so at the end of the day, HBO has an audience that they need to appease.
Well, and George signed on with that. Like,
yeah,
you keep making it sound like it's this choice where like HBO is like, F you, George, we don't.
No, I'm not saying that, but what?
Like George signed on that they were going to adapt the whole series. He knew like they were going to adapt the whole series. He's okay with it. He's written episodes for the show. He's very involved in the show. He is very, very involved in the show.
Yeah. I'm just saying for book fans who I know are getting upset at this, it's you have to understand where both George and HBO are coming from, because they have an agreement and they've done a really good job that neither of them have said screw you. They have a good partnership. But it's just, it was inevitable.
Well, I think everyone understands. Like, I'm a little upset, and I think other people are upset, but everyone understands the reality. There's nothing like they can do to change it, including George. He is the only one who is going to be able to change it, and he has accepted there is no way in hell these books are going to be done. before the show comes out. And so that we just have to deal with it. So it's going to be really interesting. I'm going to try really, really, really hard to avoid spoilers. I will probably fail miserably. But
just don't go to any comments and don't talk to anyone about the show.
I'm going to try to avoid what's going to happen. But it's going to be so hard knowing that the book's not going to be out for like another 2 years to see what happens. Because, I mean, you think about it, I think Dance with Dragons came out, was it 2012 maybe? I can't remember. 2013? It was a couple years ago. It wasn't 2013, I don't think. But a couple years ago, and like fans have been waiting on all these cliffhangers since then, and for the show to come in and you know they'll be, oh well, we're gonna resolve these cliffhangers, we're gonna show you what happens. That's really tempting for a lot of people, I mean, myself included, and I don't know how well I'll hold out, but I'm going to try to. I'm going to try and be pure for Mr. Martin, so I can read his work and judge his work and not a mix match of the two things mushed together.
All right. Game of Thrones. Lots of stuff. So a couple more tidbits of news. One I'm really excited about. I think this is just kind of like a early talk of a new rock band.
Oh yeah, out. There are rumors
of a new rock band, and this is, you know, a lot of people look at, you know, we talked about annualization earlier. This was kind of the first one, you know, burn and salt the fields, milk the cow until it's dead. But I think Rock Band did a better job than Guitar Hero did.
It did.
Definitely.
There weren't as many Rock Band games in general.
But yeah, they started re-releasing tracks, and apparently those tracks are doing well. So we very well might see it. Now, what I'm going to be really interested to see on Rock Band and the future of Rock Band is, are we going to continue the instrument, like the instrument party pack? Like, is that going to be the big plastic instruments, or are we going to find new ways? And this is in no way do I mean anything to do with a Kinect or PlayStation Motion. None of that bull jazz. But are we going to find new ways to interact with this content in a way that doesn't require me to own a
Now, well, here's an interesting question. Do you think if they came out with a new Rock Band, do you think all of the old guitars and things would work? Do you think they would make people rebuy everything, or would they be like, hey, here's a cool game you can get, you already have all this stuff, like you have no reason not to buy this new version? Do you think that would happen?
USB adapter.
Yeah.
USB adapter needs to come with the game. If they're going to do that, make the game come with a USB adapter. Do start selling the instruments individually again if you're going to do that, because most people have already sold them.
I would think that you would be able to buy new instruments, and they would do like bundles and things like that. But
yeah,
I think it would be cool if they included that, because so many people have closets full of plastic instruments. Like,
oh, I live in a very small apartment, but I still make room for the Rock Band stuff over in the corner.
Yeah, so it would be really cool if you could plug that back up. I think that would be a cool, just, I guess, like, thank you to fans. You've been waiting for it. Thank you for supporting us. We know you have all this stuff already. We're not going to make you rebuy it. You know, just come jam with us. Buy this new game. You've already got it. Are you ready? I think that'd be awesome. I'm not a huge Rock Band player, but I can say that I would be excited if it came back. It's one of the best, like, social kind of party group games that I think really ever. It brought people together in a way that we haven't really seen since. And I think it's good to have it I think it's good that it exists and that it is available for people to enjoy. It did make me a little sad when they drove, like, Activision with Guitar Hero, and then kind of as a side effect, Rock Band, the market was so slammed that they drove those games into the ground. People got tired of them really quick, and they didn't keep buying the new versions. So that made me sad.
I think a key part in all this, and I think Rock Band did a much better job than Guitar Hero did, but the key is people are much more accepting of digital content now. Rock Band always did a pretty good job of, like, downloading or releasing download packs of new stuff, whereas with Guitar Hero, they'd be like, we want to release Guitar Hero Metallica, and so it's like a new game of, all Metallica stuff instead of just making it a big giant Metallica release for the current Guitar Hero.
I will say if they come out with a new one, if they come out with a new one, I think they really just need one Rock Band that is going to be one game that's going to be out. It's going to be the one Rock Band for the next 5 years, but tons of downloadables, tons of new songs you'll be able to download, like a very steady stream of new content that you'll just be able to download, and you'll be able to download what songs you want. I think
they did that for years too. The steady content stream, they did it for years, so there's no doubt.
I think they should just do that again. Don't worry about releasing Rock. If this next game is going to be Rock Band 3, don't worry about Rock Band 4. Just continue to support this one game. I think they would do well.
3 or 4 years down the road, if you can think of a new innovation that may help it, you can do that. But this harkens back to a previous conversation. Don't annualize things. Make your games events. Make people excited for your new game by not releasing a new one every year. And I think the infrastructure is there now to make it work.
Yeah, I'd be excited to see that, and I hope they do something like we're talking about. I think that'd be a smart move. I think it would be a move that a lot of consumers were very on board with. I think they like the idea.
And you could take the high score that you get and snap a screenshot of it using Xbox's new screenshot feature.
Oh yeah,
PlayStation
that did roll out for Xbox Preview members. We are just now catching up to PlayStation people. We can now make screenshots.
That's that basically you just double tap the gem, the jewel in the middle. And from what I understand, as soon as you double tap it, it actually takes the screenshot. Then by pressing Y, it saves the screenshot to the Upload Studio. So that will probably be rolling out in the March update, which will probably come within the next 2 weeks, I would guess, maybe 3 weeks. So all Xbox members will be getting that, but we're both preview program members, so we've had a chance to play with it. But if you've recorded a clip, you know how to make a screenshot. You just press a different button instead. So
yeah, I really like these social features Xbox has been adding. Like PlayStation has had some of that stuff. I'm glad it's finally making its way to Xbox. Because as silly as it sounds, and as usually I don't bother with that stuff, just the other day when we were playing the Battlefield Hardline beta, I was just having goofy fun, and I was blowing people up with breaching charges attached to cars to make them drivable bombs. And so I was just having a goofy time. I was recording these clips where I would get like triple and quadruple kills by blowing people up. And I made a little montage, and, I shared it, and I tweeted it to Facebook, and, that was cool. That took me like a grand total of maybe like 30 seconds to put together and tweet out. And I just thought it was a fun little thing, and I wanted to share it. So I think it's cool that it's easier than ever before to do that. And screenshot is just another avenue for people to be able to express themselves and share their gaming accomplishments. So
yeah, sharing is always fun. And one of the things I really think the PlayStation 4 did right was having a dedicated share button on the controller. It simplifies it, and it encourages it by putting it first and foremost on the controller. So that was it for a lot of the main news bits that we had. We're starting to get to that good time of the year where we're getting some game releases every week. So over the next week, we're going to have some cool games. Today, Friday, Kirby and the Rainbow Curse comes out for Wii U, as well as Order 1886. So we've talked about that in depth. Kirby is super cute, always. The claymation looks adorable. So pick that up. Let us know what you think about it. Dragon Ball Xenoverse.
Oh man. If I had a little more money, I would be. This comes out Tuesday, correct?
Yeah, it comes out the 24th. Yeah.
If I had a little more money, this would be something I would throw down for. We love Dragon Ball Z. We used to play some of the older Dragon Ball Z games, and this one looks actually really cool. The idea and like core setup of it is where you make a custom character who like works at Capsule Corp. You go back in time and you essentially muck up the entire Dragon Ball Z timeline. That just sounds fun. That's fun.
A very Dragon Ball story.
It is. That sounds fun. Also, you can be Girl Boo, like Majin Buu. You could like that pink giant man. You can be a girl version. I was not aware that Majin Buu was a race. I thought he was like a genetic experiment of some kind, but apparently there are more of them. So there you go. Character creator in that game. Looks cool.
That's it. So Dragon Ball Xenoverse, that comes out on Tuesday, as well as Resident Evil Revelation 2, Episode 1 for the...
Oh my.
Yeah, that's coming out. Co-op, Resident Evil, it's an episode, so this is the first episodic Resident Evil.
Hey, so are we gonna get that and online co-op it?
Ooh.
I think we've harped on this enough, but let's just do it one more time. So what's up with the online co-op in Resident Evil?
Well, the online co-op is a feature that we will be... it's not there. Yeah, basically, it's not there, which I think is silly and should not have... That was a poor decision that does not...
Keep
that does
in
not,
mind
like...
that
I
this
would,
is a co-op game.
No, what they...
This
No,
game
if you
is
watch
made
videos...
for co-op.
If you watch videos, one of the things they talk about is how easy it is to switch between the two characters, so you don't have to have a friend play with you or play co-op. And I'm like, wait a second. So you're telling me that Resident Evil 5, which is a very fun game, and introduced co-op to the series, and we had so much fun playing it together. You're telling me that you want to maintain that, but make it where it's accessible to single-player users? Like, make up your mind, do one or the other. Co-op with AI?
Okay, I mean, I'm fine with people being able to play it single player and not lose much of the experience, but why would you have a game that is all about having two people and it has co-op enabled, but you cannot online co-op? It doesn't even have to have, like, matchmaking or anything like that. Just the ability to, like, join a friend, like, friends be able to play together is all it needs. But
yeah, they just think I guess they think for this specific game, couch co-op is what it needs. So it comes out on Tuesday for Xbox One, Xbox 360, PS4. Wait, this is okay. Hold on. No, this is confusing. February 24th, so Tuesday on PlayStation, but the 25th. It's Wednesday for the Xbox and PC. So it'll be coming to all the platforms, but for some reason Xbox and PC are getting them a day late.
Well, Xbox
so remember
Xbox stuff, like arcade titles, usually come out on Wednesday.
Oh, okay. Dude, that program needs some serious retweaking. I hope they fix that this year. But so yeah, those will be coming out. Two awesome, amazing games. Rugby 15, we put this one in here just because I didn't know there was a rugby game. I didn't know there were 14 other rugby games, or if that's just this year. Don't know anything about rugby.
That means Rugby 2015, Seth.
2015, but is there other, like, was there a Rugby 2014? Did I miss that?
We would have to research.
I saw a cricket game the other day, so apparently we're getting some international sports going. So that's cool. And then last is Star Wall, which... Have you ever played Star Wars, Cameron? Well, it's out. It's coming out for PS4 and PS3, so it's going to be...
okay. It's been on Steam.
It's going to be there. But have you ever played it?
I did.
I
played it at Game Informer.
It's super great.
One of the other interns while I was there, he was writing he was doing a write-up on it, a preview, I think is what it was. And so we all played a couple multiplayer matches with him to, like, get the full experience. That's really fun. It's a really fun game.
That's a good couch co-op game.
That is a fun, couch versus game, I guess. But yeah, lots of cool stuff coming out this next week to look forward to. Who knows? We might get Resident Evil. We might couch co-op it and, like, video it or something. We're huge Resident Evil fans. I don't know if I've told this story before, but we literally did everything in Resident Evil 5.
Yes.
Now that's not
You did everything. I'm missing one achievement.
Yes, I have every achievement. He does not have one achievement because he failed to shoot a guy in the head while he was jumping or something stupid like that.
That's dumb.
I have it because of luck, but we played that game on every difficulty. Had every weapon maxed out. I think we both had hand cannons. The hand cannons maxed out with unlimited ammo. And we played on professional, which is like the final game mode where you almost die in one hit. We killed boss fights in like 3 bullets. Like,
Yeah, it was to us. It was we were actors in a play.
it was easier
going
than
through the
easy.
motions.
I think we completed professional mode with all our super powered upgrades. I think we completed in like 4 or 5 hours.
Yeah, I remember we got the achievement. I remember that night we were running the beat the game in less than 4 hours achievement, and we did it in like 2.5 on easy
like
or whatever.
we flew through it. Like, I mean, now normal takes a while and stuff, but I'd say combined, maybe we played it for 20 hours, like across our playthroughs on every difficulty. We had a blast. It was really fun. We love Resident Evil 4. Resident Evil Fun was one of the best times we've had with a co-op game. So it's still infuriating that we cannot play this new game online co-op and have that same experience, but we might have to couch co-op it and see how it goes.
The only thing that really worries me is that it is an episodic game, so it's like 2-hour, nuggets. So it's one of those where it's like you want to play it as it comes out, but then you also want to like enjoy the whole experience. But
now, what's the price point for this? Like, is it per episode, or do you buy the whole thing up front? Do you know? I don't actually know.
I think it's similar to Telltale, where it's you buy the first episode and then the season pass includes the rest of the episodes. But I'm not 100% certain. We'll have to see when it comes out on Tuesday or Wednesday for us.
Alrighty, yeah, I'm sure we'll talk about that more next week on the podcast. I think that just about wraps it up for us here, doesn't it?
That's it.
Yep.
This is a long podcast, but we talked about a lot of cool stuff. Game of Thrones, Alien, we talked about Assassin's Creed, everything. So thanks for joining us. This has been the Patch Notes. Always go to fanboyexplosion.com or follow us on Twitter @fanboyexplosion for all the latest content as soon as it's available. You can follow me personally at Darth Turner and Cameron.
You can follow me at CLK Gamer, and be sure CLK Gamer. That's probably a person, so don't bother them.
Don't
please
follow that person.
But yeah, be sure to send us feedback, questions, anything you want to talk to us about. You can send that to our Twitter, just tweet us, or you can send it to our email, fanboyexplosion@gmail.com.
Boom.
So yeah, I mean,
subscribe and rate us on iTunes as well.
Yep.
We've been uploading the podcast for a little while now. We've got the format down pretty well. So now we're looking for new folks. If you want to get the latest and greatest as soon as it's available, subscribe on iTunes. Leave us a good rating to help other people find us. And as always, thanks for listening to the Patch Notes. We'll catch you next week, and have a great day.